We are Emu, I am Lucid Mist.
And I'm Reese.
So if you'd like to sit down. Okay, so are you ready?
I think so.
Focus all of your attention on your hand. And focusing on what feelings may or may not develop in that hand. And as you begin to look at your hand more deeply, your eyes focused on that hand, begin to notice your breathing as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And notice how as you breathe in and out, each and every time you breathe in, you can begin to notice a slight tingling sensation in the tips of your fingers. Notice how some fingers feel lighter with every breath you breathe in. And in a few moments' time, notice how it can begin to lift away from the surface of your knee. Perhaps even as if your hand was as light as a feather, beginning to make that hand feel lighter and lighter, allowing your subconscious mind to take control of the sensations and the movement of that hand and the fingers. And on each and every breath that you breathe in, tell yourself that that hand is lifting lighter as your subconscious mind takes control of the movement of that hand. So if on every breath you breathe in, that's it, lighter, lifting, lighter, with no conscious effort whatsoever, your subconscious mind has taken control of the movement of that hand. So it is lifting as you breathe in, lighter, lifting, lifting with each and every breath. And you can notice that on touching the fingers, they feel stiff and rigid, almost like cardboard. And if you actually look at your hand, even though you may be feeling slightly detached, as when you detach any limb in your body through controlling the movements by your subconscious mind, it mentally detaches you and you can feel slightly hazy because you're in an altered state of consciousness. I'd say that's probably analgesia, partial loss of sensation. Does it feel slightly numb, like you've been sat on your hand?
Yeah.
So if you time it as you breathe in, if you feel my fingers with your, like, you can feel they're not right, are they? It's mental detachment from your limb. I mean, obviously you can get it to a more deeper level. You can get it to a lot more deeper level than that. It just takes concentration, focus, and practice really. But let's try again. And perhaps this time let that be a little practice run, because I think you can do a bit better than that for yourself. Just gently rest the tips of your fingers. That's it. If you give yourself a little bit of head start by just having your hands there. Either of your hands, wherever you feel lifting, but allow your subconscious mind to connect to that hand and take control. I might have a go myself. May like to just try with certain fingers, like your index finger, allow that to feel lighter than the others. Allow your fingers the movement of your fingers to be taken control of by your subconscious mind. Allowing fingers to lift and other fingers to lift higher, so that your fingers might be twitching and things. That will detach your fingers, certainly. Like the motor movements of the hand. Yeah. Okay. So that's hand levitation, which with practice you can, you know, certainly achieve subconscious control to a far greater level. Do your fingers feel numb and tingling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely quite a lot of tingling going on. Yeah.
But it does take a bit of practice, and certainly if you were on your own and you weren't being filmed, you'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable about it anyway. But if okay, so if you levitate your hand in your own time, we'll do glove anaesthesia in a moment. But remember, you know, only allow complete honest subconscious control, no conscious movement at all. Even if it takes you a bit longer. No rush at all. And remember, as you're breathing in, feel it lifting. Some people that are quite visual might like to imagine that you've got a bunch of helium balloons strapped to your wrist. You're quite visual, aren't you? This is more receptive technique for people that talk with their hands and feel with their body their emotions. Like I talk with my hands quite a lot, and I don't even know that I'm doing it because I'm not aware my hands are moving as I'm talking to people. But for those that are more visual, it might help you if you close your eyes and imagine that there's a big bunch of balloons strapped to your wrist and that it's light as a feather and anything like that, really. Okay. So as you mentioned, well, of course you told me, haven't you? But you've got a problem with your foot, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you like to say what's wrong with your foot and how it affects you?
Well, I think anyone who really knows me is going to know that I've had problems with the feet for years, really. I do find myself living on painkillers at times. It gets so bad. But,
every day, isn't it? You have to take painkillers just to be able to walk on it.
Yeah, basically, pretty much sometimes. It does get that bad. Yeah.
Now, anaesthesia. Obviously, you can't really levitate your feet or your legs. You can levitate your toes in the same way as your hand, but you can't really. You can with your legs, but because there's so much more weight on them and they're heavier, it doesn't really work the same to detach your feet for pain relief. So what you would do is completely anaesthetise your hand. In a moment, we're going to try and anaesthetise your hand so much that hopefully it'll go blue.
Right.
It can sometimes take a few attempts, but the more you levitate your hand, like each and every time you do it, you'll find that you'll get more hazier each time. You'll get a bit more spaced out each time you do it, and you'll find that you achieve more loss of sensation each time because you get a build-up. We're going to use a technique called ice bucket technique, where I shall place your hand in an imaginary bucket of liquid nitrogen. If you close your eyes whilst I'm putting it in the bucket and really visualise that bucket, you know, really imagine that that's happening to you in your mind. And we'll do it a few times, like repeating the process, see how numb we can get your hand. And then what you would do is you would touch the relevant part of your body, and you transfer the numbness from your hand into the relevant. So if it was dentistry, you'd use a finger and touch a tooth. Or any part of your body, you would touch your hand and you touch your limb or whatever it was, your shoulder or wherever the problem is, really. In your case, it would be your foot. And transfer the numbness, but they do say, like with these sorts of techniques, that you wouldn't use it as a permanent fixture, and you should only really do it for the length of time of a painkiller, so that it does wear off, because pain is a warning. And I was once told a little story when I was on my hypnotherapy training course, where this man had broken his foot, and he kept using anaesthesia again and again and again to numb his foot, and he was just running around, walking around on his foot like everything was fine, and his foot actually went black, because it is actually dangerous to do it all the time, which probably highlights something with people that have to live on painkillers. If you're taking painkillers all day long and you're still walking around going to work or whatever, you're actually preventing yourself from understanding if you're actually doing yourself some damage.
Damaging it without realising,
so I suppose it works along the same lines, but you do have to be very responsible with knowledge like this. So yeah, when you're ready, if you levitate your hand again and then try and get it about fairly high.
Quite stiff, I guess.
Oh, they still, it's because you've got the build-up of all these times that we've done it up, you know, a minute ago and that. It's not until you, sometimes people's hands can stay numb for quite a while. Sometimes, you know, you have to give yourself a, you know, a little wiggle to get rid of it. Whereas some people actually have to properly awaken themselves, but I'll show that at the end, so people do know what to do if they do need to proper wake themselves up. So, but yeah, when you're ready. Lift in. Lift in. Imagining the balloons. The birds' feathers. How does your hand feel? A little bit numb? So it'll already be a little bit numb, but anyway. Try shopping round a bit. That's it. And don't look at me. Right, okay, next to you is an imaginary bucket.
Right.
So if you close your eyes and see the bucket in your mind's eye, just give your hand a little bit more of a lift. And then I'm just going to take your wrist and I'm just going to put it over the edge of the bucket. So it's not in there yet, but I'm just... Oh, I can feel your wrist is going a bit numb and a bit lifeless, but I'm just going to hold it over the bucket and you can feel the tips of your fingers, just how icy and frozen the mist hovering over the top of that liquid nitrogen is. It's misty, it's freezing, but your hand's not in there just yet. You can just feel how utterly bitter cold the mist and the air coming up from it. And in a few moments time I'm going to plunge your hand right in that bucket, but I'll count to 3, so you've got a little warning. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to leave it in there. I can see your hand going purple. Now if you use the levitation technique to levitate your hand out of the bucket, alright, bring it. You alright? Okay. Do you need a hand? Here, let me help you. How does this feel? Can you feel that?
A little bit.
A little bit, but not properly.
Not much at all.
I reckon we can do a bit better than that. I reckon we should do this 3 times, and that might make your... Like you can see, like, if you look at the difference, well, yeah, try and relax and not come round too much, because you'll bring yourself out of it a little bit if you do. Just put that there for a second. Right, okay, I'm going to do it again. Close your eyes. Right. Okay, so it's really visualise that bucket next to you in your head. Just going to rest your fingers over the top. Okay, and you can feel the bitterness, the bitter, icy, cold air blowing up, upwards, feeling the bitter cold air over your hands. With that bucket of liquid nitrogen, it's icy, it's cold. And I'm going to count to 3 and then plunge your whole hand into that bucket. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now this time keep your eyes closed. I'll lift your hand out of the bucket. Keep yourself in as deep a state of hypnosis as you can. Alright. This number than before.
Yeah, a little bit. Still pretty low.
But
yeah.
Is it more numb than it was last time?
Especially on the ends of the fingers.
Yeah, it will be. Round your nails, the tips of your fingers, because they're the more sensitive. Like your hand, to to be honest, feels like a shriveled up prune, to be honest, stiff as a board. If you like, you can touch your fingers with your other. Yeah. Alright, well keep yourself under. Try to keep yourself under. Levitate your hand up again. Alright. Alright. This is the final time this time. I'm going to freeze your hand as much as possible.
Yeah.
Right, give it all you got this time, because this is going to make your foot nice and numb. So reiterate your intentions. And in a few moments, I'm just going to, on the tips of your fingers once again, you can feel the freeze and bitter cold air coming up through your fingers. Maybe the odd splash might splash your fingers. But you can now feel just the surface of that liquid nitrogen, but you're not quite touching it. And I'm going to count to 3 and plunge your whole hand, and on the count of 3, your hand will go so brittle and cold and be so frozen, bitter and cold, you will not be able to feel anything in your hand whatsoever. It'll feel like you have no hand. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to count to 10 so it becomes as cold as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just going to lift your hand out now. What's that like? Is that as numb as it's been?
Yeah, still a little bit, but...
Alright, okay. So this is probably the best we're going to get it. It might take a bit of practice in the future, but you shuffle round and put your legs up. Which foot is it? Okay, so if you place your hand on it and imagine all that numbness transferring over into your foot. And only when you've completely transferred all that mentally, symbolically in your mind with your full intention to do so, you can remove your hand and then see how your foot feels.
Yeah, I can see the skin on my hand.
Is your hand now come back to its normality?
Yeah, it's getting there. But you can still see the skin looks quite different still.
What, the skin looks a bit different?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, only when you've completely transferred all the ice cold numbness. So how does your hand feel now? Does your hand feel back to normal?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Still a little bit.
Is there any left in there to give to your foot?
So,
You think you're done? So how does your foot feel? Do you want to give it a little...
Not really.
Well, you wouldn't push it in and hurt yourself, of course you wouldn't, but... like, prod yourself a little bit or something.
I can't do that at all.
What, is that you transferred it to your toe, did you?
Yeah, so that's normally the painful bit.
What, the big toe's the painful bit?
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
That's,
so, yeah, because with true...
Sorry. But a lot less.
With true anaesthesia, I remember when I had a wisdom tooth ripped out, it's not a feeling of... you don't actually feel like your mouth's frozen, but when they put the needle in, you feel sensation, but you don't... You can feel the needle going in, but you don't feel pain.
Yeah.
Because that's what anaesthesia is. It doesn't take away your sensation. Like, you still feel me poking you, but you feel no pain. Because it turns off your pain receptors. But you have to suggest icy coldness, and you have to suggest coldness, and because that is the metaphorical way that you would do it, but in truth you don't have a feeling of coldness, you have a feeling of no pain. You know, so you can feel yourself touching your foot, but there's no, you know,
it's all right. Maybe slightly.
And what you'd have to do is if you notice that it was starting to come back again, the uncomfortable feelings, then you'd have to do it on yourself again. And with that shows you how to do it. So if you practice that, and
it probably would be able to practice that.
Well, yeah, it would. You would be able to do it on a far deeper level. I mean, when you're in front of a camera being videoed, it's not quite the same, is it really?
First time I tried it, really. But that's definitely done something.
But that is how you would do it. So you can elaborate it and improvise it into your own way of doing it. But you know, that is the process that you need to go through to be able to. There. Right, shall we? I mean, you know, if you feel alright, then you feel alright. But if it's just to show what you would do if you were feeling a bit hazy, or if you weren't properly woken up, or if you wanted to make sure that you removed any numbness or sensations, that to wake yourself up and completely remove any of it, what you would do is, however you want to sit, I don't know, maybe you want to sit with your back against the wall again, and if you just close your eyes, and in a few moments time going to awaken you. And if you were awakening yourself, then you would say to yourself that you're going to count from 1 to 10. You become more and more awake with each ascending number. By the count of 8, you'll have opened your eyes. By the count of 10, you'll be fully wide awake. And when you awake, you'll be fine, refreshed, with feelings of well-being, feeling happy and good about yourself. And all normal, healthy sensations will have returned to normal. Okay, so if you count yourself up from 1 to 10.
1.
In your head or out loud, it's up to you.
3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10.
You're right.
Yeah. That's a bit weird.
Your eyelids were going like there was REM going on. Were you visualising stuff? What, I was counting you up or something?
No, not really. I could feel definite sort of flashes going on or something. But
So did you think the whole time we were doing that you were actually in an altered state, even though you were quite conscious of talking to the camera? Do you actually think that you were
quite possibly, But there was definitely something going on then when
because it didn't look like it was waking you up from nothing, did it?
No.
Alright, thank you very much for working with me, Reece.